It is a brand new chapter for UNO charter schools as they try to pull themselves out of months of controversy. This all started with the mishandling of federal and state funds to the point that the old CEO, Juan Rangel, many of you familiar with him, had to step down. Well, fast forward to today, and the group, which oversees 16 schools, has a new CEO. Rick Cerda is joining us today to explain what comes next. He is the new CEO of UNO, just announced this week. Happy to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. So Juan Rangel, who used to lead UNO, very well known in the community,
Yep.
A part of UNO for years and years. And so folks knew a lot about him, and I think they want to know a little bit about you and what your background is, what you can bring to the table.
Sure. Well, a little bit of background on me is I'm a first-generation immigrant here to the Chicago area. Moved here when I was just a little 3-year-old. My father actually was in the Marines on tail end of Vietnam and came here. And I've been in the Chicago public school systems myself. I went to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and have been in the CPA profession for the last 15 years. So I'm a CPA by trade. Worked with great accounting firms, and that's where I've.
And I think that's important that you mention that because, as many of you know, UNO has been involved in a great deal of turmoil when it comes to federal and state funds being mishandled. So you come in with the financial side or the financial expertise to all of this. You have turned other corporations, companies, groups around. Is that my understanding? Is
absolutely.
it accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I probably have worked with over 500 companies, from local companies, family-owned businesses here in Chicago, all the way to Fortune 100 companies. So I think what I can bring is the best of the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think as we were going through the process, we talked about what is the right leader for UNO. Certainly you could bring in an educator, a community organizer, or somebody like myself who has a business acumen and socially minded to be able to kind of steer UNO into the next chapter of its life.
Okay, and so the question becomes, how do you do that when there's such little confidence right now from the public, the parents who have kids going to that school, to state, federal leaders who you count on to try to get dollars?
Yeah, well, I can tell you, I can speak a little bit to my values, right? Because as the son of a Marine, as you can imagine, we learned discipline. I learned to be hardworking. Mm-hmm. And then as a CPA, you absolutely learn integrity, above all else, independence, right? Independence not just in fact, but also in appearance, right? And I think that's what I can bring to the public, so that they know that they can have confidence in me, that I'm not politically affiliated with anyone. I'm really in there because, quite frankly, I was frustrated. I was frustrated with what I was seeing with an organization that's been around for 30 years.
Did they seek you out, or you went looking for them?
No, they sought me out. Then actually there was a very rigorous interview process. As you can imagine, they want to get the right leader in place, and there was a gentleman, David Gomez, who helped us along those lines from Gomez and Associates, and a phenomenal man, and he actually helped to bring us together.
Okay, so good values, good integrity, which is great, but the content of this, you go in to your office and you look at what? Which problem do you fix first, right?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things to look at. Now, the good news is that all of these problems have really been limited to what I would say the headquarters office. It has had minimal impact on our schools. Our schools are actually still performing extremely well, especially our elementary schools, which is the bulk of our schools. So my focus is going to be on how do I fix the leadership, so bringing in the right management team that's going to have the same values and help me to change the culture of the organization. And how do I bring in experts into the organization and onto our board that's going to be able to be good stewards of the company.
How involved will you be in the investigations that are happening?
Extremely involved. As you can imagine, I mean, as a former auditor for 15 years, that's something that I'm going to do. And we're going to find out exactly, what caused all of this, right? And there's already investigations going on in that. And I think with my experience, I can just complement some of those investigations. But I'm going to be extremely involved to make sure that we can right all of the wrongs that have taken place. And you'd be surprised, and I've been surprised that some of the things that are there are basic infrastructure things that just weren't addressed. The organization grew so quickly that, quite frankly, I think it grew faster than it could keep up. The benefit, I think, of me coming in there is that I've seen the best of the best from all sorts of organizations. So it's nothing that's foreign to me, and I can help to get them on the right course quickly.
So have you had conversations with Mr. Rangel about what happened, what went on, and where do you move forward?
You know, I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had conversations. I actually have reached out to a couple of people to see if we can have those conversations. But I think independent of that, I'm not going to rely too much on that. I mean, I think he could definitely bring in some valuable insight. But I need to be able to make my own opinion, and I need to be able to conduct my own investigation to get this ship going in the right direction.
Okay. So for parents at home that have looked at all this, have followed this story, what does it mean for them if they have a kid? You know, we're talking about 16 schools that UNO runs, mainly Latino communities. And so a lot of these parents are wondering, if I take my kid to school, you know, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, as this guy kind of gets to know the system and maybe makes some changes of his own, what does it mean for them and their child? The nitty gritty, as you called it. What, you know, what changes for these kids?
Well, you know, there's one of the things that I want to make sure is that part of my frustration that has come is because I feel that we're turning our back on UNO, and I want to make sure that we don't do that. I mean, UNO has had a positive impact for over 30 years. And that's where my frustration came, is that I looked around and some of the folks that I talked to and said, where are the other strong Latino leaders that can help us to continue to make a difference in the community? And so I think for the parents, that's what I want to be able to bring to them, is confidence that there are other Latino leaders in Chicago that can be stewards of the organization and to be able to make a positive impact. I'm glad to say that, like I said, our schools are still performing very, very well. And so I don't think that
anything changes in the classroom.
Yeah, I don't think it'll change. But at the same time, I do want to bring the spirit of collaborating with the teachers, collaborating with all the employees. And we have a lot of phenomenal employees at UNO. And that's going to continue. And I want them to have the confidence that they're not going to continue to see the headlines, negative headlines that they've seen in the past.
All right, let's hope so. Thank you so much. Rick Cerda, the new CEO for UNO. We appreciate you coming in. Hopefully you come back.
Thank you for having me.